right. Looks like we are live. And we are. A little bit of a lag, but that's cool. All right. So the purpose of this video clearly is to build a Node.js API using MySQL. I don't know about you and in your environment, but I still use MySQL. Not that I don't like Mongo, Redis, etc., GraphQL to kind of do multiple things, really, right? That said, in this video, let's just use our existing database, right? I've been working on a site xnodio.com, which will make sense eventually. But that's it. Let's just jump into this. So I'm going to assume most of you have some knowledge of programming. And even if you don't, that's okay. We're going to keep you in mind here. So first and foremost, I like to use Visual Studio Code. One of the best things Microsoft has come out for developers in recent times. But we'll go ahead and open it up. Assume you have it open. Make sure you have a terminal open. If you don't, or have never done that, you just simply go to terminal, new terminal, there you go, and you have it, right? Now, there's several things here you might say, well, where did my, maybe you want to split terminals, right? You could also have multiple, right? Just depends on you. But in this case, let's go ahead and go and do a new terminal here, shall we? Bring that down. So depending on where you like to work, depends on where we should go. So in my case, I create a folder called projects, right? And it's there. So let's just go ahead and make a new directory and call it API, cd into that API. It's empty, right? Right. So several things we're going to need in this case are, the requirements of this project. So again, I'll assume you may or may not have used Node before, but let's go ahead and just start making a package here. So we're just going to call it MySQL API, right? Right. Only let's just call it API for a second. Version 1.0. Just say MySQL API with Node.js, right? All right. Entry point new. I want it to be app.js. Test command. We don't need to worry about that right now. Okay. Oh, looks good, right? Let's just make sure. Okay. Looks good. All right. So we have our package, right? So we can simply do install package. Let's go ahead and have these items install for us real quick so that we can utilize them in our project. All right. Let's make sure there's a Node module directory, and there is. Great. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is create a app.js file, right? So there's several ways you could go about doing this, right? You can echo a file like this. It's like that actually, right? And then call it app.js. And we could do something like, well, I guess we want code, right? And there you go. So there's a file. Dirty way of doing it, but it is what it is on Windows. So first and foremost, we need to go ahead and define MySQL, right? That is our player here, which is the whole purpose of this video. So we will go ahead and call it that. MySQL. Now, some people will flip out if I don't put semicolons, but the real JavaScript folks might want to kill me with these semicolons. But anyways, so let's go ahead and express, because that is going to be needed for the way I want to show you how to do it, right? And then we are going to go make this into an app using express, like so. Okay, so we've required MySQL Express, and now we're going to go ahead and make the server aspect of this. Let's just call it server app.listen, right? And then what is the, we'll say 3000, right? That's the normal thing. Function, right? Okay, so now several ways we can do this. I like to see things kind of neat, so let's just do this. And we may want to interchange this eventually, right? So in this case, we're just hoping for this specific local IP address. So let's do address as so, and then let's also port, just so we have that defined, server.address, like so, port, right? And then we want to console log it just so we know that it's running. API is listening and running on UCTB and %s and do our port, right? So that should be good as so, and then let's give those strings over, those variables rather, right? Okay, so missing a semicolon. Okay, so what we've done, we're so far just speak about it. We've required several items here. We've required MySQL Express. We created an app essentially using Express, and we're now creating the server that will listen on port 3000 and let us know that the app is actually running, right? So in theory, right, if we do node and then app.js, why? What did we do? Cannot find module MySQL. I was pretty sure I requested that. Let's take a look. What has happened here? Cannot find. I could have sworn I installed these guys. No worries, easy enough. And that was the whole purpose of our JSON file, but alright. Alright, so it's running and working as intended, right? Let's maybe go ahead and pull up a browser window just so we know it's working as intended, right? So we will do localhost 3000. Great. We know it's working. It's there, right? We can access it. And maybe we won't let this baby go far. We'll put this over here as we need it eventually to do some more testing, right? All right. So we have that as so. We know that's working. Let's go ahead and kill that. All right. So our next step here is to actually do something. First let's define our database, right? So I have a database running on a VM here. I'll just slide that over so you guys can see that. So I have a VM here that's running my SQL database and everything else that we're going to use for this. But I'm going to go ahead and minimize that, and because that port is exposed to this machine, I will be able to access it. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and define this. So I'm going to do the database host name, which is going to be 192.168.52.134 in my case. And let's also do database user, and it's going to be go login. And then database pass. God, what was that password? It was L2X. Oh God, G6. GJEBWW. I think that's what the damn thing was. I might have to look it up in a second, guys. All right, so let's do database. Database, right? That's what we want here. Go login, right? All right. So here we've defined our MySQL database connection here. Oops, sorry, guys. This should not have popped up for you. Slack, the creator and hater of my IT world in the last few months. All right. So that said, we have our database listed here and what we're going to connect to, right? Simple enough. We have it predefined there. So now let's go ahead and create an endpoint, right? So let's just call this request endpoints, right? So now let's use our express, which is the whole purpose of why we used it. Let's do something like get all users, right? That might be helpful for like a control panel or CRM, whatever. And let's do request and then response as so, and the function will be that, right? All right, so let's set up SQL database connection as so. So let's go and create the connection. So varcon, and let's now use MySQL, right? And see, this is one of the reasons why I love Visual Studio Code, right? It's just easy for me to tab this out, which is great. Okay, so now let's do host, right? And our host is db host, so, and let's do user, and that's db user, so, which we've already defined. Password. Now, of course, there's better ways of putting the password in plain text here, right? But this is just for doing it, but I only mention it. So we prevent any kind of argument of, oh, that's not the best way to do it. I'm aware, but that's what we're doing right now. You want to do better? Great. All right. Semicolon at the end, right? So now we have a connection that we've created. It appears to be correct, right? We have, as long as this is correct, that is correct. And I stick with spaces, all right? But let's just be sure, right? So let's go ahead and create a the connection itself, right? And let's even, say if there's an error or something, right? Because right now we technically don't know until the request and probably break it. So if there is an error, right, then throw the error, right? Otherwise, let's say console log SQL database connected. Yay, right? All right, cool. So we'll say it's connected and our there, right? So now we have a connected database, right? And let's go ahead and even test that hypothesis. Let's make it into a theory. All right, that looks to be working, but what do you know? Nothing's going on here, right? So let's make something happen. Oh, wait a second. I forgot something here. All right. So let's actually make something happen here, right? And normally this will say it's connected. Right. So what do we want to do? We want to go in. I guess we'll just get the users, right? So we need to do a query of some sort. So based off of the schema I wrote, yeah. So let's get an ID and username for now, right? Let's just get that for now, and then function. So if there's an error, I want to know about it. If there's a result, I want it. Let's go and make something happen here. So if there is an error, right? Let's go and log it out here. So console.log, and I want to say something like so we know select error, and let's just say what that actual error is, right? So error.message, right? As so, and then let's just return. I don't want to kill the project for now. There's better, cleaner ways of probably doing this, but for now, quick and dirty. So now let's actually kill the connection, right? And let's respond out the JSON. And we're putting this out in JSON. It's the most popular way of doing things nowadays, right? And just easier to work with. So let's console log the result. So we have it locally, so we know it's working, right? Okay. So the hypothesis is that that we've created a connection using Node.js, right? Using the MySQL module and using Express to create an app that will listen on 3000 on this specific address, which is my local address and the port that we've defined. That said, we've defined our SQL database right here, what we're trying to connect to. We're saying we want to allow someone to get all users, and then when they do that endpoint, we want to connect using our MySQL connection that we created here. We want to do the connection, and if there's an error, we're going to throw that error out. Otherwise, let's just let us know internally that the SQL database was connected and successfully. Let's put a space there, it looks nicer. And in this case, we're going to do a connection query using what we've defined up above and with our active connection. And we're going to go and get the select ID and username. Oh, well, wouldn't it help if I said from where, right? From the users table. Okay, so we're going to select the ID, username from users table. And if there's an error in this process, we're going to give the select error and output it out here. And we're going to continue to allow the application to run and not kill it. Now for debugging, you might want to kill it. I don't know. That's up to you. But we close our connection after we've done our query. We're going to output our response here using JSON. And we're also going to internally see what the actual issue is, because we're going to log it internally so we could see in logs. Now, eventually, you should probably do something different, right, regarding logs. But that said, if this all was correct, and I think it is, in just 37 lines, we should have written a small API that will connect to our SQL database and get all users in our SQL database, or all users in our table SQL database. So that said, let's go ahead and run this baby. Okay, the API is listening and running. Okay, so now let's do get all users as so, right? Oh, we've crashed here. Access denied for user go login. I guess I don't remember what the damn username was, do I? Like I said, guys, I might have to go back and see what that password was, potentially. So 192.168. So, I mean, that looks right. Looks good. Looks good. Looks good. Looks good. Go log in. I think that's right. I'm pretty sure the database is go log in as well. This password, however, I don't recall. Trying to think. L2EXG6NYIGJ. Oh, I'm missing a number. Okay, that's probably why it was not connecting, right? All right, let's try it again. Okay, refresh this baby. There we go. All right, so we have several names in here, right? Username, Lance, ID numbers to that. So we know it works, and here we are saying, oh, the SQL database was connected. We know the IDs that are in there, the usernames that are in there as well. So if we go ahead and kill that sucker right there, we know what it is, right? So that said, that's always good news that we were able to successfully do that, right? So you might say, well, what if I want to do the specific ID or specific name, etc.? Well, you can do that in here in the GET request and add the perimeter. But before we maybe even go do that, let's just take a look. That is correct. Now, we could get everything from here, including passwords and everything. You normally would not want to do that, right? But let's say we want to add one more thing, right? Like created at I have in my schema. Let's run this baby again. Okay, let's run this one more time. And now we have our created at, right? Which might be useful for you, might not be. I don't know. That said, here it is in JSON that we've outputted it for us here. We see that. That said, as I mentioned, what we could do, just save time, make this quick and dirty. Oops. Let's do this. Just a quick and dirty way, guys. Don't freak out. Get let's say user. Which is it going to be? Let's just say by ID, right? That's simple enough, fun enough. Everybody can live. Right? So let's maybe even continue not to show the ID, right? Because we're going to go by ID, but let's get the username and when it was created at from our users table, right? But in this case, we want to say where ID is equal to, and let's give that, well, actually we don't have to put it in there. Let's just do request perimeter. Let's get it. .id, right? And so that right there should be enough for us to output that out. Run this baby, right? So this guy still works, right? So in this case, we want to do get user, right? And let's say user2, right? And user2 should be testing. Let's get it. And there we go. So we were able to get user number 2 in the ID is 2, right? So username of that. Now let's get Lance, which was 1. And there we are. We have the information about that account. So as you see, we were able to easily enough create an additional endpoint that was able to get by the ID. And again, if we go back, and now we have it for all users, right? So that was fairly quick, I'd say. I'm not sure exactly how fast we did this, but I think like in 20 minutes or so, we were able to successfully make 63 lines of code act like a normal API, if you will. Of course, you want to have either JWT token or some kind of authentication, OAuth or whatever, have a token, or maybe you don't care if this is just basic public information, but probably good to have those details to begin with. But that said, this was our simple tutorial of how to make a Node.js app. A little longer than probably I would have liked, but we tried really hard. I'm sure we could have gotten this done a little bit faster. But anyways, 63 lines of code, not bad, not bad. That's it. I think for now, I appreciate you guys watching, and if you have anything to say, suggestions, or what have you, I'm always interested to hear. But otherwise, guys, thanks for watching. And if you have any requests to see something else we want to create, just let me know. Maybe next one will be Mongo or how to do GraphQL. Not sure, but interested to hear what you guys have to say. Have a good day.